All right, where were you born?
Actually, Hartford Hospital, Hartford, Connecticut.
And what kind of neighborhood did you live in?
Middle class, probably. It was racially diverse, really racially diverse. Just typical, I guess.
And what kind of home life do you have?
I have one brother, and my mother and father were divorced when I was young, but my father lived close by, and I was with him every day, and I stayed with him on the weekends, but and then never a day went by that I didn't see him, so it was almost like they were still together. Just really, really basic, nothing extraordinary at all.
And what kind of kid were you?
I don't know. I was into sports, like me and my friends. I mean, we played football in the park by my house probably every day for 7 years. Rain, winter, spring, summer, fall, whatever. I mean, storms. That was that thing. I loved Lynn Swann. I was a big fan of Lynn Swann and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's what we did. We played football every day. That was like I was in high school. I wasn't into. I didn't drink. I didn't do drugs. I never went to one party in my whole entire high school career. Never went to one dance. I didn't even know we had dances. I honestly didn't know. It's kind of funny now. I look at my friends, people I graduated with. I look at their Facebook page, and they have the old pictures of parties and trips the kids in high school went on, and I never even knew. I had never had an idea, because I was just boxing and playing football. That was what I did, and I even if I knew about him, I probably wouldn't have went anyway. Because I wasn't that type of kid like to hang out and drink and party, and that just was never my thing at all. The guys I hung out with, we just played electronic football, and we watched fights, and that was it.
So what'd you do for ladies then, if you never went out?
I actually had a girlfriend. I was quiet, but I had a girlfriend in high school, and actually, it's funny. My wife now, her and I actually used to share a locker in high school. Yes. Well, I actually met her in 6th grade. She was my first girlfriend, so to speak. As much of a girlfriend as she could be in 6th grade. Yeah. So I had a girlfriend in high school. I had girls, but I met them my own way. I never went to parties. I've never been to a party in my life. Never.
You never had a sip of alcohol, I read it.
No, never. No.
That's cool, man. That's cool.
It was funny. I was thinking about tickets as a kid. Windsor High School kid right now who's on my Facebook page, and he used to box at the gym a little bit. And I was actually just talking to him yesterday. We were going back and forth on his Facebook wall, and I was talking to him about that type of stuff. And so I was telling him the story about how when I was a kid, I read about Muhammad Ali not doing drugs and not doing alcohol, not drinking alcohol, and it stuck with me. I just figured if it was good enough for Ali, it must be good enough for me, and that just stayed with me. And the thing was, I was at the pool today at the Hard Rock, and I was watching the waitresses by the pool, and I was watching these guys in the water, and one of them wanted a beer, and they called the waitress over. But the way they call her over, it's kind of like they didn't, they don't. Some guys say they don't respect the waitress, the doorman, you know what I mean? Those are just the people that are there to work for them, kind of thing. And reading Ali's book, I read where even when he was going to court for the trial in the late '60s for draft evasion, they said, and this was a third party speaking, saying that it was amazing because every day when he would come into court, Ali would walk over to all the guards and the cops, and he would shake their hands, and nobody noticed it. But this one reporter was there, and he said he just thought it was extraordinary that Ali would take the time. And then another lady said she noticed they were at a big event at the Waldorf Astoria in New York City, and all the celebrities were there, and they said out of all the big celebrities, and they named like some huge stars, and they said out of all the celebrities, Ali was the only one that went over and shook the hands of all the maitre d', the waiter, the doorman, and that always kind of stuck with me. Just little things like that about Ali stuck with me as far as how to treat people. And despite the fact that he was going through what he was going through, but he white, black, he always shook their hands and acknowledged them. I always liked that about Ali.
Is there anyone cooler than Ali ever?
No, I'd have to say no. Nah.
I don't think so.
Nah, not at all.
No. Who got you interested in boxing to begin with?
My father. My father was a big boxing fan. He still is to this day. He actually had the books. He had when I used to stay with him on the weekend, he had all the autobiographies of mainly the three specific ones: Willie Pep, Sugar Ray Robinson, and Muhammad Ali. He had his autobiographies. And every weekend when I'd go to stay with my father, I would read their autobiographies over and over and over. So that's why all those little details stuck with me from each guy.
Yeah, that's cool. You met Willie Pep, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, he was actually the first famous boxer I ever met. I was 15, and I was actually a pallbearer at his funeral in 2008.
Yeah. What did he say to you the first time you met him?
When we first met, he, I was just like any other kid. He was like, oh, hey, he signed a picture for me, and it was nothing extraordinary. But as I started boxing and getting into it, and getting my name out there, he, I'll give you an example. One time I was telling him, I said, hey, we got the show, we're fighting at the Civic Center, and I was naming all the people that were on the show. I was trying to sell them on the show, and he goes, hey, listen. So he interrupted me, and he said, listen, I'm coming to see you. I don't care about the other guys. I'm coming to see you. And he came to I just thought that was a trip. And recently, it's kind of funny. Recently, Billy Pep, his son, he messaged me on Facebook, and he told me, he said, I don't know if you know this or not, but when you were a kid, just turning pro, Willie told me, he said, watch that kid. That kid's gonna be good. You gotta keep an eye on that kid. So it's just kind of weird to me that he even, I'm just honored that a guy like that even knew who I was. And next thing I know, I'm carrying his casket.
That's amazing.
Yeah, sure is.
It's like Bill Clinton shook the hand of JFK when he was a teenager. That's
right. Oh, I love that kind of stuff. I love that. Yeah. It's funny you mention that, because I saw that. I remember when I read that, and I thought that was real. But I think there's a picture of it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there's proof.
And I just thought that. And I just thought that was a trip. I like stuff like that.
Yeah, me too, man. And let me see. Hold on one sec. Now, how old were you when you first walked into a boxing gym?
My first day in an official gym, I was 14. It was actually this month. This is my 30th anniversary, March of '82. Was my first day. But I actually started boxing in '80. I organized a boxing league in my neighborhood, and I had a bunch of the kids from town, and we boxed each other. And I actually called it the WBC. It was the Windsor Boxing Council. And we had a little, like a aluminum foil belt, and I never forget. I still have the record of it. I was 9-0, and I still have the names of everybody I boxed. And we boxed. I mean, one guy we boxed on my back porch. We boxed in my friend's basement. We boxed in the park, and we boxed in somebody's yard. And we had our own little league going.
Did anyone ever call the cops on you?
Nah. It was like a lot of kids did that back then. It was kind of like I actually got the idea from another kid that lived up the street from me, Billy Gilmore. But Billy was older than me, so I couldn't really expect to hang with his friends. So I started my own thing and got some of the other kids my age and size involved.
Born organizer. Nice.
Yeah.
Were you good right away when you first went to the gym?
You know what? I actually write about it in my book, and it's just for I loved Ali, and I imitated Ali, and I thought everybody boxed like Ali. And the funny thing is, the first day in the gym, the coach put me in, and I was 14 years old, and I boxed with a 17-year-old kid. And I remember he had a little bit of experience. He fought in the Golden Gloves and whatever. And I got in there, and I just boxed like Ali. I imitated Ali, and I remember he couldn't hit me. He just couldn't touch me. And I didn't hit him a lot either, but he didn't hit me. And I never forget, after the fight, after we sparred, he said, hey, so, man, how long you been boxing for? And I said, wow, I don't know, 20 minutes, half an hour. I just started. He thought that I had come over from another gym to get some sparring. He thought I was experienced, and it was literally my first day in the gym. From because of Ali and really the Rocky movies, watching Apollo Creed, I used to imitate Apollo Creed, and I was always kind of elusive right from the start. So I kind of had an advantage over some of the guys. That start at the same time, on their first day, that they don't really have that boxing mentality. But I had them, even though I never boxed before, officially, I had the mentality.
Mm-hmm. I always liked Apollo Creed too, man. He made Apollo Creed made it look so cool, didn't he, Carl Weathers?
Oh, he was the best movie boxer ever, by far.
Yeah,
by far. That guy had, I actually, it's a funny thing, and you can go on YouTube and you can watch it. There's a YouTube video of one of my amateur fights in the Olympic trials in 1988, and at one point you see me throw a triple right hand, and I've had everybody that watches it. They mention it. They go, "Oh, that was a real nice triple right hand in the second round." I got that from Apollo Creed in the first Red Balboa fight. He did it. That's the honest truth. He did it if you watch the movie, he did it in the fight. It's the part where he starts talking. He goes, "Get your cameras ready. Get your cameras ready. Here it comes." And he threw a triple right hand, and that's where I got it from.
Yeah, I think I saw that movie like 1,500 times probably.
Right. So, you know the scene.
Yeah. And you're one of the best amateur boxers in Connecticut history. What was your record? Like 57?
I was 57 and 13.
Yeah. You won the 87 Ohio State Fair Games. Was that the first championship or first tournament you won?
No, I won my first tournament was in 83, but the Ohio State Fair was my first big national level event. You have your local, your regional, and all that. But yeah, that was my first, notable tournament victory that people would, the Ohio State Fair was a huge tournament. I mean, Sugar Ray Leonard, Tyson, Tommy Hearns, they all fought there.
Mm-hmm. And how did it feel when you first won that?
That was one of the greatest moments of my life to this day. I mean, that was one of the happiest days. Like winning that tournament was just. I could have quit boxing that day, and I would have been satisfied.
Wow. Yeah. You won the '87 National PAL in Jacksonville too. How'd you feel when you won that one?
That was the same thing. The PAL was one of the first tournaments I ever heard about when I turned amateur, and the thing was, I fought this guy, Curtis Mingo, who had beaten me the year before, and he was really cocky, and he was good, but he had beaten me, and I remember in the fight, he hurt me with a left hook to the body in the previous fight, and it always stayed with me, and I knocked him out in the finals in the PAL in '87. So that was not. It would have been great to win it, but to win it and knock him out in the process was just very, very, very special.
Yeah. You won the '88 Eastern U.S. Olympic Trials in North Carolina. You defeated Darren Allen and then
right. Now that was the biggest for me. Darren Allen was a superstar in the amateurs. He had beaten Henry Maskey to win he was the world champion in '86, and he won the title by beating Henry Maskey. I mean, he beat Frank Tate. I mean, he beat William Guthrie. He beat all the big names. He was the hot. He was the superstar at that weight class, and I always wanted to fight him. And when I got to the tournament and I saw him there, we were out by the pool. And I saw him working out by the pool, loosening up at the hotel. And as soon as I saw him, I knew we were gonna meet in the finals. I knew it, and we did. And so I was very very hyped up, very excited for that fight. That was probably the crowning moment of my pro and amateur career, was that day.
Yeah. Wow. And you won the '87 Western Mass Golden Gloves. Is that a big tournament? I never did hear.
Well, it's very notable in our area because I won it in '85, '86, '87, and '88. I won it 4 times, and that's the tournament. I mean, everybody in New England, parts of New York, and Connecticut, that's the Golden Glove. Like that's what you train for all year long, so you can fight in that tournament. And that's the first tournament I had ever heard about when I started boxing, was the Golden Gloves. So I just wanted to win it once, because the winners get a blue jacket with gold lettering on the back. And I wanted that jacket. That was the symbol. That was a championship belt to me. that jacket, and I just wanted it, and I won it 4 times, and I still have all the jackets in my trophy room.
Wow, man. And the tournament where you won the '88 Eastern U.S. Olympic Trials, is that the same one that you beat Darren Allen in? Was that the one?
Yeah, well, no, that is the one. Yeah, that's where I beat Darren. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool, man. So how did you feel when you won that award?
What the outstanding boxer, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh no, that was just, that was just icing on the cake, because there was some top fighters in that tournament who could have won. I mean, Michael Bent, future heavyweight champion, he was in there. He could have won it. He could have won that outstanding boxer award. So that was just icing on the cake. But like I say, beating Darren was just an amazing. For me, that was like somebody right now beating Mayweather. That's how comparable it was to me.
Yeah, that's cool that you won the whole award for outstanding boxer too. You know.
Yeah, well, I think
cool,
a part of it had to do with the fact that I beat him, because, like I say, he was the man. And it's funny, we're friends now on Facebook, and we talk, and it's funny because I must have exuded that attitude, because he wrote on his Facebook wall, he was kind of reminiscing about the old days, and he put my picture up, and he said, John Scully, he said, I used to hate this guy. He was a rival of mine, but now we're good friends. And he said, and when we fought in 1988, it was as though he would rather die than lose to me. And that was him writing that. I think, that was his impression, and he was right. Like, that's literally how I felt. Like, nothing in life meant more to me than beating him that day, and I did.
That would be the coolest thing to have on the first page of your book. Wouldn't that be cool?
Oh, yeah.
Did you have it in your book, or you wrote your book before you saw that?
Well, my book is not even done yet.
Okay.
I'm planning on having it done by June, so,
there you go.
Yeah. I can include that in the chapter where I talk about it.
Yeah. And how'd you feel when you found out that you made the list of all-time boxing team with Tyson and?
With the Golden Gloves and Holyoke. Yeah, that was like I say, that was surreal, just because as an amateur coming up, that's all I heard about was the Golden Gloves, Golden Gloves and Holyoke. Everything. I mean, it was such a dynasty there. I mean, you fought there. To this day, I can still smell the arena just smelled like hot dogs and popcorn, and I can smell it right now in my nose. And to be on that, to be the all-time middleweight is just, it's surreal. It's like it's kind of weird to me.
That's cool, man. Really. And what kind of relationship would you have with Mike at the time? Did you have any kind of relationship with Mike Tyson?
Was that Tyson?
Yeah.
No, actually, I didn't know. I was there when he was there. I didn't know him. I actually met him. When did I meet him? I met him in '89, briefly.
Okay.
But I actually talked to him for quite a while in '96 when he was training for Bruce Seldon fight, and we were talking for quite a while. And he could see that I obviously knew what I was talking about as far as old time fighters and things. And he asked me, he goes, "What's your name again?" And I said, "Oh, John Scully." And he goes, "Oh man, I'm sorry, I didn't recognize you. Oh, how you doing?" And he said he watched me fight, and it was just crazy. Like, I was just amazed that he even knew my name. So he was, I can't say I'm good friends with Mike or anything like that, but he knows me. I mean, he obviously knows me. And actually, after that, I had given him, I photocopied a whole bunch of old amateur articles for him that he was in, and one of the friends of his from his amateur days, and he was really, really appreciative of it. So, I think, I'm not his best friend or anything, but I know him, and I always thought he was, from my interactions with him, I really like him. He's a really good guy.
Yeah. What do you remember about your amateur fight with Joey DeGrandis? I talked to Joey the other day. He told me to ask you about that.
Oh, wow. What, did you get it?
I watched it on YouTube.
Yeah, that was a trip, and that was amazing. It wasn't just that. I mean, it was before that. It was in the hallway before the fight. There was a lot of drama, and then for months and months, actually years after the fight, we had quite a long history. Actually, him and I didn't even become friends until about 2 years ago. we started talking, and we saw each other somewhere. Like people would see us at fights together, and they years later, and they would be like, "Oh man, Joey's over there." Like they literally thought a real fight was going to break out with us. But it was I liked it. I mean, it was like an Ali Frazier type of thing with him and I, and I enjoyed it. It added a lot to the the whole program.
How good was Joey? You were
real rough. Like he was a real rough. He did good. I mean, he beat some good guys as a pro. He turned out to have a pretty solid pro career. I just at the time we fought, he was he predicted he was going to knock me out and everything. It ran in the newspaper and everything. But at the time, I mean, I was pretty experienced, and I was probably a little too much for him at the time.
Yeah, what happened to start the brawl? He said he whispered something.
It started a couple days before the game, the fight.
Yeah.
His friends, I mean, he's from South Boston, D Street. He's with a rough bunch of guys, and they were trying to intimidate me in the hotel and at the arena and everything. And him and I were actually alone in the bathroom before the fight. I walked in, and he was there, and we had a couple little words. And then what happened was, right before our fight, while the previous fight was going on, I walked up the stairwell, and I passed him as I walked out into the hallway outside the arena, and I whispered to him. I said, "It's showtime." And that was it. He got furious, and he came after me, and we had a little altercation in the hallway, and the police had to come and everything. So it was by the time we reached the ring, it was just like a firecracker that had been lit. They were just waiting for it to go off.
Wow. And what did you feel about your loss to Fabian Williams? Did you feel you lost that fight? Should have won that fight.
You know what? I lost a 3-2 split. I thought it was fair. I mean, I thought I lost. It was my first time at the National Golden Gloves, and when you fight in the national, it was my first time in the finals. And when you fight to win the National Golden Gloves, you have to fight 5 days in a row. And I mean, I had some really spectacular performances that week, and I think I was based on that, I was favored going into the fight with Fabian. But to be honest, I was just so tired. My body was just so broken down. By the time we reached that fight, I just didn't have it. And the only reason it was as close as it was is because I dug down and I tried. But it's funny, Fabian and I are actually friends now. And just about probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, we were on the phone talking, and he told me, he said, during the fight, I switched up from southpaw to righty. And he goes, "Man," he goes, "I never told you this before, but it's a good thing you didn't stay southpaw, because if you would have stayed southpaw, you would have beat me." He said he had huge trouble his whole career with southpaws, and but I didn't know that, and I kept switching to righty. So if I knew then what I know now, I would have stayed southpaw. But it was it was fair. It was close, but he beat me fair and square.
So what kind of person were you when you lost? Were you like how'd you deal with that?
At that time, especially with the amateurs being the way it is, the Golden Gloves is one of the top 2 biggest tournaments in the country, maybe in the world. I mean, that's just such an elite tournament. To make it to the finals is the odds are however many to 1, just huge odds for you start out talking about the whole United States. There's 32 regions that the Golden Gloves are broken up into, and those 32 champions have to fight, however many hundreds of guys they have to beat, and then they all go and meet at the Nationals, and then they single elimination until there's 2 left. So, I didn't look at it like a loss so much as I looked at it like, I was one of the 2. I mean, I made it to the finals. So, and I recognized right away, being a boxing historian, I knew how important and significant being a finalist was. So I wasn't devastated because I knew I had accomplished something.
Yeah. How about the Keith Providence loss? Did you take that one?
Now that one, I won that fight. That one I don't like. I won that fight. Everybody knows I won that fight. That fight was on ESPN. I mean, even the announcers. I mean, I won that fight. And for whatever. I have my suspicions as to why I didn't get it. To do with the team coach from the team that he fought for was a guy who personally didn't like me, and he happened to be one of the Olympic coaches. He had a personal thing, and I don't know how much that played a role, but I definitely thought I won. The ESPN announcers thought I won.
Mm-hmm. I get that too. People hate me for no reason. You don't know why, right?
Yeah. Well, what's funny, the guy, Tom Coulter, he said I had a bad attitude. And the thing was, A, I had never met him in my life. I didn't have any idea who he was. And B, there's nobody at that, especially at that time, could ever say I had a bad attitude. I mean, I was so quiet in the amateurs. I never even talked to guys. Like, I was very quiet. I was in awe of all the guys. So for him to say that just proved he had never met me, and he was just making up stuff because nobody knew what kind of attitude I had because I didn't say anything.
Yeah. You know, it shocks me how many mentally ill people there are in the world.
Yeah, there's more than a couple, yeah.
Yeah. And what's your greatest memories of being an amateur? Did you have any international fights?
Yeah, I actually had two. One of my biggest memories is actually beating Otis Grant when he was number 2 in the world in his hometown in Montreal, Canada. That was huge. I mean, I took the fight on like 3 days' notice, and I knew who he was at the time. He had just been the runner-up at the Pan American Games a few months earlier, and he was number 2 in the world. And so that was a massive win. That was huge, and so I really enjoyed that. And then I fought another fight in Puerto Rico. I lost a 3-2 split to the number 5 guy in the world, Freddie Sanchez. But I got the travel, and I got the seasoning of fighting guys of that caliber. So win or lose, just being at that level helped me a great deal.
Yeah. And did your amateur career get you a real nice signing bonus?
Did it what?
Did it get you a nice signing bonus?
Yeah, for me at the time, yeah, I got a signing bonus, and I had a choice of signing with some different people as a pro. I was with Sugar Ray Leonard for a while, and I could have signed with Ray, but the only reason I didn't was because I just wanted to stay home. I wanted to stay in Connecticut, and Mac Buckley was the guy here. He had Marlon Starling and Troy Wortham, and he was the big guy in our area, and he he had a plan for me, and it allowed me to stay home, and so I took it.
Yeah, that's cool. How'd you feel the first time you're talking to Sugar Ray Leonard? Is that the first time you met him?
The first time I met Ray, I was in the dressing room at his gym, and he came in and introduced himself, and I specifically remember thinking to myself, is this really him? Or it was almost like I was thinking they brought a guy that looked like him just to amuse me, And I was, man, like, this is a guy I idolized. And I mean, I remember when he fought Tommy Hearns, and I walked around the neighborhood that night just looking up at the sky, and I was like, man, like, I wonder what's going on in Las Vegas right now. Like, I can't believe tonight there's only going to be one welterweight champion after this fight. And and people idolize Sugar Ray, and they would love to meet him, and they couldn't because he was standing there with me in the dressing room. And I just thought that was the greatest thing. But it's funny now, my whole boxing career has been surreal to me because, like, at that time I met him, and it was just so bizarre to me that I knew that I was in the room with this guy. And now, it's a thing where he sends me emails, and we're in touch with each other now. And it's just a crazy life I've been allowed to lead.
Yeah, that is amazing. You turned pro on, do you remember the date you turned pro against who and what the result was?
September 16, 1988, at the Hartford Civic Center against Paulino Falcone. And I stopped him in the first round. I actually broke his rib.
Yeah, wow. How'd it feel to get that first win under your belt?
That was, I needed to just, it wasn't, like the amateur fights I fought were bigger in terms of competition and everything like that, but the pros, I always had such great respect for the pros that, just to be in the ring without the shirt on and have those fight gloves on, and it's just there's a different vibe to the pros than there is to the amateurs, and it was definitely like starting over. It was definitely like being in a whole new stratosphere. And it was different. It was a climb. You know, I didn't transition as well as I would have wanted to, because I had such great respect for the pros that I put the game probably on a little bit higher of a pedestal than I should have. Instead of just relaxing and being myself, you know, I just looked at it like pros. You know, I'm thinking Hagler, Leonard, Hearns, Ali, Holmes. I mean, that's pro to me. So everybody I fought as a pro, it was just a big deal just to even be in the ring with them, because it indicated that I was a professional.
Mm-hmm. Were you like psyched up and a little nervous going into the ring?
Oh yeah, it's crazy when I look back on it now, because I was nervous to fight guys who early on, you know, they didn't have half the ability and talent of the guys that I was beating in the amateurs. But just the fact that they were professionals, to me, you know, kind of messed me up. You know, just the fact that they were professional boxers fighting for money, as opposed to trophies, it made me think of them, you know, in a different light. Somehow they seemed tougher and rougher to me, which you know, in reality they probably weren't. But that's how I thought of it, and you know, it took some getting used to.
Yeah, you won your first 13 fights and 12 by knockout, and then you fought the way more experienced Brett Lally. Why'd you fight Brett Lally with so little experience?
You know what? I have no idea. I mean, I don't know what my manager was thinking. I mean, really, because I had only been. It's not just that he had that experience over me, but if you look at the record, I had only been a pro 9 months. I just turned pro the previous September, and we fought in July, the beginning of July. So I was literally a pro for 9 months. To fight, to turn pro, and then 9 months later be the main event on ESPN against a guy like that with a record like that is very unusual. You know, I don't know what my manager at the time, Mac Buckley, I don't really know what the hurry was, because physically, I should have beat Brett Lally. I mean, really, I know, I realize that now. I mean, I should have beat him. I was more talented. I was a little bit bigger. You know, if I would have fought my fight, I would have. But just the lights and the Atlantic City and the casino. I had never been in a casino before. And all of a sudden, there I am. I'm in a casino getting ready to fight. My picture's on a poster all over the casino. And ESPN is there. And Al Bernstein is there. And you know, really, I mean, all due credit to Brett. I mean, he beat me fair and square, but the whole thing combined was just probably too much for me at the time. I respected the pro game so much that it kind of messed me up.
Yeah, you were overwhelmed, man.
yeah. I mean, looking back, I can see that I was. It was, you know, it was like just a couple years earlier. I was the guy in front of the TV watching the HBO fights, just in awe of Donald Curry and you know, Lil McCrory and all these guys. And now here I am on ESPN. It's almost like I didn't know I belonged. I didn't think I belonged. It was almost like being dropped off in the middle of a movie and you don't know how to act. You know?
Yeah.
And that's what it was like. It was like, all right, Pat, no time to think. You gotta, you know, Robert De Niro's over there. You gotta trade lines with him. And you know, I wasn't. You know, I always say, if I would have fought most of the guys I lost to, if I would have fought them at a different time in my career, I would have beat them. I mean, you know, Brett Lally, I mean, he was a very tough fighter, don't get me wrong, but when I was later on in my career, I mean, I don't think he would have had a chance in the world to beat me. But you know, he definitely caught me at the right time.
Yeah, how'd you feel after losing that fight?
You know, I was confused. I was like, man, you know, just, you know, maybe I don't belong in this game. Maybe it's too much for me. You know, I knew that I had to change something. You know, it was mostly my way of thinking. You know, I needed to be stronger mentally and more focused. You know, but again, I just, you know, throughout my whole career, I mean, I was always like, even when I was fighting for the title, you know, I just looked at it like, you know, boxing was such a big thing, and I was always kind of maybe subconsciously not sure if I belonged, because because these are guys like when I fought Michael Nunn and guys like that. I mean, I used to watch these guys on TV, and I knew who they were way before they knew who I was, and so I think it kind of messed with my head a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, even as you did get older.
Yeah, I mean, so not as bad, but just subconsciously, it's just a weird thing because I've always been a fan of boxing, and it's just kind of a trip. And I'll give you an example. Like when I was in Las Vegas one time, 1989, and they called me. I'll never forget. I was in the room and I was watching TV, eating a cup of ice cream, and my manager called and he said, "Hey, listen," he said, "I'm over at Johnny Taco's. Mike McCallum's here. He needs some sparring. His sparring didn't show up. Come on over." I said, "All right, man." And I just got up. I put the ice cream down. I ran downstairs. I got into a cab and I went right over, just only because I just wanted to box Mike McCallum. It was just like, man, I get to box Mike McCallum. Like it never occurred to me that I could fight him one day, or we might be rivals one day in the same weight class. That never occurred to me. I just said, man, I get it. This is my opportunity to box with Mike McCallum, and that's how I looked at it. That's how I always looked at the game.
Yeah, and you came back and you picked up a couple of wins, and then you fought for your first title. It was a New England middleweight championship. Now I know it's a minuscule championship, but it's still pretty. You still won the championship. How did it feel winning your first championship?
Oh yeah, in Connecticut, in our area, I mean, the New England title was important because back then, they don't even know if they still have it, but back then, I mean, guys that I really looked up to, Kuda Leaks and Papa Figueroa and Sean Mannion and Robbie Sims even, they were New England champions, and it was a big deal then. So, and the kid I fought, he was kind of my rival in Hartford, Anthony Daly. I had beaten him in the amateurs, and so to fight him and for the New England title, that was, like, to me, as a fan of boxing, fighting for the New England title pretty much felt the same as when I fought for the world title. I mean, there wasn't that much difference to me. I mean, a title is a title, and in my own little world in New England, that is the world title. And so I treated that like a world title fight for sure.
Yeah, well, and tell me about your fight with Alfonso Bailey.
That's a huge win for me because, again, as a fan of boxing, when I was coming up in the amateurs, Alfonso was the #1 ranked light middleweight in the country, and he was very, very, very highly thought of. And as a pro, he had beaten Dwight Davison, who was #1 contender by the WBC for a long time. And I was actually kind of intimidated by Alfonso, to be honest with you. I was leery. I was very leery. Probably one of the fights I was the most leery going into of an opponent was that one. I really respected Bailey quite a bit, and I knew he was a good fighter. I knew he was very experienced, and I had to be really on top of my game. And as luck would have it, the way things turn out, that actually was probably one of my top 3 best performances as a pro. That's one of my favorite fights. I fought a good fight, and I beat him pretty convincingly.
Yeah. How about your split decision win over Billy Bridges? Someone told me that Billy Bridges hits real hard, but then I asked you on the Facebook a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
You said no.
Right, no, I didn't think so at all. I didn't feel any of his fight, like nothing. He was a very technical boxer. He was one of the maybe one of the top 2 or 3 technical boxers I've ever fought. But the thing was, to be honest with you, I was extremely sick during the fight. I mean, there's no way I should have been allowed to even box that night. I was losing weight, and when you lose weight, to enough that makes you sick, you get what's called dry heaves, which I didn't even know what it was at the time, but I was throwing up, but nothing was coming up, and that meant I was throwing up, but there was nothing in my body to come out. And that's what I went into that fight with. I was so sick that I actually, on the way to the ring, while we were on our way to the ring, there was a delay for a couple of minutes because a basketball game was on, and the game went into a little bit of overtime. so they had to hold us up for about 5 or 10 minutes. And while I was standing there in the hallway leading out to the arena, I actually almost, I don't know if you say fainted, but I kind of fainted, felt like I lost consciousness for a quick second, and I fell against the wall. And I'm on my way to the ring. I got my gloves on, the cameras are right there in front of me. So I fought that whole fight, and I remember specifically telling my corner man, Johnny Duke, I told him, listen, Duke, keep that bucket ready right next to me, just in case I have to throw up between rounds. I want to throw up in the bucket. And so I went the first 3 or 4 rounds of that fight just trying not to get hit in the stomach because I didn't want to throw up all over the ring. And around the 5th or 6th round, I started loosening up, and I said, man, I'm kind of in this fight, and I'm not getting hit that hard, and I loosened up, and I finished strong, and I ended up winning the fight, which under the circumstances is almost a miracle. Because and after the fight, I actually have a picture of all of us in the casino eating dinner, and I didn't eat anything. I was so sick, just sitting there at the dining room table. Just, you can just see my face. I just looked terrible, and so I, split decision win over a 16-year-old guy. It was a very great accomplishment, but for me personally, that was a spectacular accomplishment just to fight as well as I did under the circumstances.
Yeah. And what happened with the Kevin Watts fight? How'd you lose that fight?
You know what? That was my last fight with Mac Buckley as my manager and trainer. I was just fed up. I went into that fight. I didn't care. I was just so sick of making weight, and I didn't want to fight 160 anymore. And I told Mac that I didn't want to fight 60, and he basically refused and said I had to stay at 160, and I didn't want to fight, and I just went to that fight just with no, and it just sucks to look back on it because it was on TV. It was a big opportunity. He was like number 4 in the world at the time, and I basically just allowed him to beat me. I just didn't have any. I didn't want to fight at all, and that was my last fight with him. Literally, like the next day, I severed ties with him.
Okay, sounds like a jerk, huh?
Yeah, no, it was. Well, you know who Mac Buckley is, right?
Yeah. I don't know him by face, but I know him by name.
But you know what he did.
No, what did he do?
Well, no, he went about 10 years ago. If you Google it, you can find a million stories about it. But he actually went a little nuts. He says he has bipolar, and he took like 400,000 from his clients and took off with it. Just took off, and he left his family and grandson and everybody behind, and he was missing for a while. He actually was on America's Most Wanted. They had me on America's Most Wanted talking about him. That we thought he got abducted, and turns out he was on the run, and then he turned himself in, and just a lot of crazy stuff. And and I think he was bipolar when he was managing me, because we always thought something was a little crazy about him, because he used to do kind of unusual things, but we just figured it was just a quirky thing about him. But years later, it turns out he's bipolar.
No, that's crazy. My wife was always depressed, and she's bipolar. She never had a manic episode, but when they go manic, they go crazy. She actually divorced me. It's crazy.
Really? Yeah, well, that's what he just took off. Like he had a law practice, he had a farm, he had a wife, like 6 kids, a grandson, everything. I don't know where he thought he was going. How he thought he's going to start a new life somewhere. And he took off, and then it was the craziest thing. And then just all of a sudden, one day, he just showed up.